church, it's Dave here, and on the men's weekend here at Berners Acre, just down by the river. Thought it'd be a great opportunity just to bring you our weekly video for this week. So hopefully this week you were back in your home churches and had a great time sharing, growing, building life together, and that you'll continue to do that through the rest of the week. And then the following week we'll be back corporately together. As you know, we've got this kind of alternating system for this month, this rhythm. Still wanting to encourage discipleship and mission. So keep seeking God and sharing together what that might look like. But I just want to close with a few final thoughts on the book of Esther. And for me, it's been just a powerful time to go through this book and be reminded of God's sovereignty and God's power and how God is involved in the minutest of details. And I know we've taken time to go through this, but this is rich. And I don't want us to miss the richness of what God wants to bring. And what we've just seen, our last part of Esther was the back end of chapter 9 and then chapter 10. Chapter 10 is just very short, few verses. And you'll see the Feast of Purim, or the Festival of Purim, put into place. A festival feast that the Jews still celebrate today. And it's this word Purim comes from casting lots, where Haman came and tried to overthrow Mordecai and destroy the Jews, and yet God turned it around for good. And this is what we read in chapter 10. It says, King Ahasuerus imposed tax on the land and on the coastlands of the sea, and all the acts of his power and might, and the full account of high honour of Mordecai, to which the king advanced him. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew is second in rank to King Ahasuerus, and he was great among the Jews, and popular with the multitudes of his brothers. For he sought the welfare of his people, and spoke peace to all his people. What a change from these two Jewish people, Esther and Mordecai, in a foreign land, because they were there due to the fact that they had been taken into captivity. And yes, things had changed. Yes, the environment they were in was much better, and it was a good environment, but they're still in a foreign land. And here is God coming along and working it so that Queen Esther, this nobody, or Esther at that time, who's a nobody, becomes queen. The queen of the most powerful king who rules right the way across from Egypt, right the way over to Babylon. It's this huge empire. She becomes queen. And God's plan and purpose is this, because there's this evil man, Haman, who doesn't like the way that Mordecai isn't bowing down to this foreign gods and rule, but is choosing to worship God. And he wants to destroy him and the Jewish nation, as you know. And here he comes along, God, and he turns it around so that Haman gets destroyed. The Jews get saved. They have victory over their enemies. And as we read here, not only that, but Mordecai becomes the second most powerful person in that nation. It reminds us, doesn't it, of Joseph, and how Joseph, sold into slavery, ends up in prison, ends up in Egypt, and becomes second to who was the most powerful king in that time, who was Pharaoh. He comes second in command to him and liberates his people. And what this should do is this should encourage us that God is in control. And as we look around our world and think, man, it's crazy, you know, we might worry about government and decisions and pandemics and all the kind of things going around us. We might think, man, the evil seems to always have the upper hand. Enemy seems to be on the prowl. It should stop, or make us stop and believe and think this. Even though it may look like all this crazy stuff's going on, God is still in control. God is still the most powerful being, the most supreme being, the wisest being in the universe. And the Bible tells us he is for you and he's for me. And that every decision and every situation that he's working in, he is working for good. Even though we may not see it or realize it or understand it, he's working it for good. Even now, through the current situations we're in, God is using it for good. He's stirring his church. He's causing his church to wake from its slumber, to start living for the glory of God and not just for ourselves. God is roaring like a mighty lion at the moment. And the church, we as the church, need to hear it. And the encouragement for us is, as we continue on this journey as Simply Church, working out what it means to be these daily disciples on the mission to bring Jesus to the people around us. That we should be talking about that with each other, working this out, praying it through, saying, okay, so what does that look like for my life, for my day, for the places and the people God has put me with, or in the situations God has brought my way, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that God is working all things together for good. And this very last bit says this, that Mordecai sought the welfare of the people and spoke peace to all the people. You know, our heart, this is what we should be as Christians, that our greatest desire is to see Christ formed in others, that I desire to see Christ formed in you, and that we together desire to see Christ formed in each other. But not only that we desire to see Christ formed in those that don't know him. That we seek the welfare of others above our own preferences and comfort and desires. That we seek the welfare of the people that God has placed us in. And you know, we need to ask ourselves, what does that look like? What does that look like for the neighbours God has given me, for the work colleagues God's given me, for the classmates God has given me? And how can I bring peace into those situations, into this time of quite unrest and a lack of peace because of what's going on? How can I be a voice of peace, knowing that God has got his hand on our lives and that he will work these things together for good because we love him and we're walking according to his purposes? So as we close Esther, be encouraged. Continue to ask yourself, what does this look like? How can I apply this truth? How can I be intentional in my day? And encourage each other to do the same. So I just pray for you that you may have an amazing week, that when we gather together, I think following week, and we come corporately together, we're going to start the book of Hebrews, and that we're going to continue this journey that God has taken us on. So thanks for tuning in again, and I'll catch up with you soon.